Hi, Oliver. Thank you so much for being here today. We are recording this data science career Q&A session with Oliver Lum, engineering manager, algorithms and data science from Flock Freight. And did I pronounce your company right?
Sorry, there's some background noise. Can you repeat that last part?
Oh, I was just wondering, did I pronounce your company name correctly?
Yes, Flock Freight.
Okay, so Oliver, thank you so much for being here. So to start, can you please give us a little introduction, your professional background, information about your organization, your role in the organization, and maybe the current hiring need?
Absolutely. Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Oliver Lum, Senior Engineering Manager of the optimization team at Flock Freight. So I kind of lead most of the research activities here at Flock Freight, which is kind of a tech startup looking to optimize the way that freight moves using algorithms instead of actual, physical infrastructure. My own professional background and experience is in applied mathematics. So I got my PhD in applied math and scientific computation, and then spent about a decade working first on and then eventually managing some advanced research projects for the Pentagon at their research arm, DARPA. After that, I got connected through my old advisor to the CTO of the company and joined as the company's first research scientist, if you will, about 3 years ago, when the engineering team was just a few people. And back then, there was really no data science. But obviously, as the needs of the company, the research needs of the company grew more and more complex, we started to realize that data science had a very valuable role to play in our business. So right now, the data science department is one of the three kind of branches or arms of the optimization group here at Flock Freight. We're currently hiring for both individual contributor positions. Like think senior staff level data scientists, but we're also looking for leadership positions, at the manager and director type level. And yeah, I think that about covers, the quick intro. My own research expertise actually is in combinatorial optimization methods for optimizing the vehicle routes. So it was kind of a natural fit for Flock Freight's mission.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Okay, so what does a successful data science or data analytics person look like in your organization? And what are some of the important traits or skills that you find most valuable?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll first answer for Flock Freight and then maybe give a little bit broader of an answer because I think additional context might be helpful. So right now at Flock Freight, we are primarily hiring what I like to call full stack data scientists. These are people who are familiar with the end-to-end process of going from nothing to a deployed machine learning model, if you will. And so that includes establishing, the ETL pipelines and cleaning data and, engineering features and all that. It also includes some familiarity, being able to work with software engineers to expose models as, endpoints that can be queried by, a core platform to perform their duty or whatnot. So it's not just kind of a research position where you're primarily concerned with just building models. It also includes, the like machine learning operations side of things as well. It also includes, by the way, communicating the value proposition to stakeholders within the business who may not be familiar with data science or even what data science and machine learning are. And so, if you ask me what a successful data scientist or a successful data analyst looks like at the company, a big part of the job is also being able to communicate complex topics to an educated but uninformed audience. So that also kind of speaks to what I think one of at least the important traits and skills that I find to be very valuable. As far as others, I think that curiosity is a big one. If you're not interested in the project that you're working on, it usually comes through. A lot of the ways in which we found the biggest lift to models or model performance, I'll say, comes from pretty clever feature engineering that you'd only really kind of be able to do if you understood a relatively complex problem inside and out. And, I think that's something that only comes if you're truly invested and interested in the problem you're studying. So I guess one piece of advice would be, I know some people like to think data is data. And while that can often be true, I would advise folks to, look for a company that has a mission that you identify with, because that part will just come easier. I guess speaking more generally, I think as we grow as a company, probably that notion of, full stack data science will converge a little bit and start to get more and more specialized. So we'll have, machine learning engineers that are just dedicated to ML ops. We'll have data scientists that are primarily researchers and, can focus just on doing research and model development. And, a software engineering team that's fully dedicated to deploying and scaling out these deployments. But for now, we look for, and I think smaller companies tend to look for the breadth rather than the depth.
Thank you. Now, for students and job seekers, how to stand out as a job candidate for data science positions?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on the nature of the position. And I also want to make sure I'm sort of clear on what I'm defining as data science, because as you noted, even in the previous question, right, there's data science and then there's data analytics. And I know that various firms use the term data science very differently. So typically when I'm thinking about data science positions, I'm kind of scoping them to this process of either statisticians or folks who are building machine learning models, regardless of whether they're recommender systems or deep neural nets or pricing systems or whatever. But I am not kind of including what we would characterize as data analytics or operations research at some other firms. So with that in mind, I think one of the things that folks can do to stand out as an exceptional job candidate is to really overemphasize communication and make sure that you're doing that part of the interview process well, because truth be told, like there are a lot of people, I think rightfully so, who when they're in school or being trained, they focus a lot on the technicals, and that's great because you need those. But it means it's hard to differentiate between two candidates who are both very technically qualified, and it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. A roll of the dice. What random problems a company is going to throw at you to try and assess your technical strength. And so as long as you feel like you're a pretty well-rounded candidate, I wouldn't worry so much about that. What I think does come across much more strongly in interview settings is being careful and deliberate about how you explain things, providing the proper context, making sure you're understanding the problem and articulating that well enough before even embarking on trying to apply any sophisticated techniques to it. I know some of the red flags that we look for is not doing that, not spending the time up front to care about, what the nuances of the problem may be that haven't been explicitly stated as part of the problem, right? I think all of that sort of deliberateness and the ability to get that to come through in whatever interview setting that you may find yourself in will really help you stand out as a candidate.
Thank you. Okay, so in your organization, what does a typical hiring process look like? And are there any resources you recommend candidates to study in order to prepare for interviews?
Yeah. So for us, the hiring process has two phases. It has a screening phase and then an interview phase. In the screening phase, we typically send out a short automated quiz. So, there's a bunch of platforms out there. We use one called Testome, but there's nothing special about it. So we have chosen a set of questions that we feel kind of represents the baseline level of technical know-how that someone would need to be successful in this position. And then they go through that process and the system renders a pass-fail. So that's the first part of the screen. And then for the second part of the screen, we have candidates actually talk to one of our data scientists and kind of walk through projects that they've worked on in the past. I should say, currently we are only looking for data scientists that are relatively seasoned. So for newer candidates, we might be asking more about personal projects or something like this. But in our current process, we're mainly focusing on work that the candidate has done in other positions and getting them to go deep essentially and really tell us a lot about what they worked on at a level where we feel comfortable understanding their contributions, understanding what kinds of problems they have successfully worked on in the past, what they haven't, maybe where some of their failures have been in the past. We also kind of talk a little bit about what it's like to work here and try and assess a little bit of the fit in terms of, kind of engineering culture and data science culture at Flock Freight versus places that they've worked in the past. So that's the screening phase. And then for the interview phase, we start with a take-home. We used to do this as part of the on-site, but obviously no one wants to go through like an 8 or 9 hour on-site and where they're totally end up exhausted. So we split that into two phases. The first is this take-home, where we give them a sanitized data set actually from our business and a pretty open-ended question. And we ask them to do what they can with it in a relatively short amount of time. And then we offer them access to either myself or one of our data scientists to be able to ask us questions. And then, the last stage, of course, is an on-site interview that's less technical in nature, where they'll get to meet up with our product management team. They'll get to meet with our CTO and present, some work that they've done before, kind of emulating that environment where they would have to brief out potentially to the senior leadership team here, something that they've done in the past. And of course, there's a little bit of technical Q&A with our data analytics team just to round out the technical evaluation. So that's kind of the steps involved in our hiring process.
Thank you. This is very helpful. Okay, so any additional advice for students seeking data science type position? Any technical or career resources that you would recommend?
I think most of the advice I kind of came out in the previous answers. One thing I did touch on a little bit, but maybe I'll just kind of repeat is because data science is such a hot field and, everyone, it feels like every company is either starting or, has a data science team. I would advise job candidates to kind of do their research and early on identify exactly what data science means at a particular firm, because I mean, even among the FANG companies, it's not very standard. You know, I know folks at Facebook and at Netflix, and you know, what data science means at those two organizations is very different and also very diverse. So understanding, you know, what you want to do versus what they want you to do. I mean, that's general advice for anyone, but I think it's especially something to keep in mind, you know, when job seeking. Because, for example, here, data science means something very, very specific. And so, you know, if you don't enjoy that, then you know, it might not be a good fit. So I think that's probably all of the advice that I have to give.
Thank you so much, Oliver. And I'm sure that there's much our students can learn from your advice here. And thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I hope you have a great afternoon.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Take care.
Bye.